Hey guys, and welcome back. This is ChosenArchitect, and today we're jumping back into some more mechanical mastery, and today we're setting up the 25-time ore processor. Hopefully you guys are ready. Now today is going to be a complicated one, and I hope you guys are eagerly awaiting to follow along. But this is going to be the 25-time ore processing, or at least the start of the production of this setup. Now it's going to involve a couple of mods. It's going to, well, 3 mods actually. It's going to involve mechanism, it's going to involve create, and it's going to involve thermal, believe it or not. All of these things sort of combine together to create a ore processor that takes about 3 raw ore, 3 of the raw material, and then can take that 3 material and turn it into about 25 of that material. Give or take. I think RNG is a little bit involved in this setup as well. But inside here, everything is pretty much laid out. I had mentioned this before inside the quests. The setup for this is kind of laid out for you, and it sort of shows at least the start of the machines that you're going to need. Now, you're going to need a setup that produces sulfuric acid. You're going to need a setup that produces hydrogen chloride, and you're also going to need a setup that produces oxygen. All of these materials are going to need to be supplied to these different processes here. That's probably the hardest part of the entire setup, is these first 3 individual machines. So to kind of take you along the journey of what this is going to look like, we first need to look at the chemical dissolution chamber. So this is going to be the start of everything, and it's going to trickle down. So the start, we have the sulfuric acid that goes in here, and then we have the raw nickel, or the raw material that we're going to be sending to it. That's then going to produce a dirty nickel, or a slurry. It's going to produce this, actually it's just called dirty nickel, because I think slurry is another option, another thing in here. This is then going to get processed inside of a chemical washer, and it's going to require, I believe this is just water. Yeah, any kind of water, some nickel, as you can see here, and that's going to make clean nickel. Then the clean nickel goes into a chemical crystallizer, where it then produces these nickel crystals. And before, if we noticed, from those 3, we end up getting, I believe, a full bucket's worth, which is 1,000 millibuckets. And this is going to produce a crystal at the rate of 200 millibuckets. So you're getting 5 for 1, or in this case, it's 5 for 3 in reality, as things have really changed over the years when it comes to ore processing. Because it used to be that you would do this would be the start of a 5 times ore processing set up with mechanism. Over here, we have the nickel crystal that is going to be produced, and then we need to take that and give it some hydrogen chloride inside of a chemical injector. Hope you're staying with me at this point. That is going to give us nickel shards. Of course, this is going to require salt in the process as well, which we're going to have to figure out how to get from the looks of it. Or actually, no, I guess we just need to, we just need to feed it hydrogen chloride from the looks of it. Yeah, which I don't know if we can feed it the liquid, or we can feed it this just raw salt. We'll have to see if we can even get our hands on salt. We get that from a gaseous brine, which I wonder if this comes from. Ooh, I have no idea. That's going to be a little tough. I'm going to figure that out. I'm pretty sure we can just produce this, which is just chlorine, hydrogen chloride, and hydrogen. So that's not too bad. But taking the nickel even further, taking the shards. So the shards are then going to get processed through oxygen, turning it to a nickel clump. Then that clump goes into a crusher, which has a 30% chance of producing an extra one. And then that, I believe, goes into a crusher. And that'll give us 2 for the nickel ore. So we get that nickel dust is now split into 2. And then this goes into, I believe you can either use an enrichment or a pulverizer. I think the pulverizer gives you an additional chance of 20%. Actually, I think it goes even higher depending on what you have in here. If you have this material going in, you get a significantly higher chance. I think it's like 2.5% or something like that, which increases the output even further here. Then this finally goes into a energized smelter, which then gets smelted up. And then we get our ingot. So I know it's a lot to take in. That whole thing took me almost 5 minutes to explain, but yes, we're going to be building that today. Now, in setting up the automation for all of this and getting all of these machines auto-crafted, which is going to be the best thing to do, I do have to produce this refined obsidian ingot. And it's actually quite simple to do this. It's the same setup as everything else. I should have added this before. So we have an osmium compressor, and basically I'm going to be sending osmium in equal quantities along with that refined obsidian. So, or sorry, with the obsidian dust. So to make this, it's simple, just like this. Oop, and it should be 1-to-1. We're also going to need osmium. Thankfully, we already have some produced. And I'm going to only have to put 1 in here. So 1-to-1, bam, and that should get us exactly what we need inside of our machine. Just one of many autocrafts that we're going to have to do. But this one's quite simple. So I have this all configured the same way as all the other machines. If you watched last episode, quite simple how that all works. It just gets exported, goes around, does its thing. We can actually go ahead and pull this out and craft a few. So when we craft it, you see we're going to have the processes happening over here. And then it's going to start producing. And it is 1-to-1. It should use 1 osmium to mix with the 1 refined obsidian dust. As you can see right there. There we go. Perfect. And it's just going to continue to do the whole process until everything's done. Now this right here is 100% the reason why I wanted automation for all of the mechanism stuff. And that is because, well, this requires a lot to craft all of these individual machines for all of the stuff we're going to need in the future. So definitely getting these on AutoCraft is 100% a necessity. Now for this process, I need to break things down into parts. And well, the first part I'm looking at is making salt. It's not 100% the first part that we need to produce, but it is going to be one of the most difficult parts, I think, of this whole setup. So going from sulfuric acid, this one's pretty straightforward as we've already got the processes happening for this. To produce oxygen, we just basically separate water into oxygen and hydrogen using an electrolytic separator. That's pretty straightforward. Now, sulfur dioxide is a little bit different, as we just basically take a chemical oxidizer and we just put sulfur dust in there. We're already producing sulfur dust, and I have changed my sulfur production a little bit, and I've sped it up. So basically now, instead of crushing the charcoal, I just have charcoal blocks going in here, and then I'm producing oxygen here, and that oxygen is turning that into sulfur, and it goes at the same pace, except now we're producing it, I would say, 9 times faster. Which is a lot nicer than the setup I had before. Same setup going on here, so hopefully that's enough. We might have to do more of these, because this is almost running at its max. Thankfully, it doesn't really use much power, 20 RF or FE per tick, which is nothing. This, however, does cost a lot of power to keep the oxygen going. Cost, you know, a couple thousand RF to keep that running at full speed. Now, back to what I was working on. So that's pretty much solved. Now, hydrogen chloride is what one of these machines needs, right? For this process right here. Unfortunately, I don't think this is a huge thing that I'm going to need to worry about, because I don't think I have to make the actual chemical itself. I just need to make salt, and the salt should automatically get converted. That's at least what I'm thinking is going to happen here. So to get salt, it's going to be a little bit of a process, and I guess we can go ahead and get started on how that works. So this salt is going to be used inside of that machine, right? So it's going to be used inside the chemical injector. It's going to give us a little bit of this hydrogen chloride. That is what is going to ultimately do the processing. Now, the process of getting salt requires brine. To get brine, we have to send this through a machine. Of course, this is how you get gaseous brine. You decondentrate it. But basic brine comes from a thermal evaporation chamber. And you basically send water into this, and it turns it into brine, right? So through the process of evaporation, we basically take what is assumed to be salt water, I guess, and it turns it into this thicker water. We call this, I guess you can call this some thick, salty water. That's what that brine is going to be. It requires some temperature, which I'm going to show you how to set up. I've got to get all of these crafted up, and also advanced solar panels, because I like to use those instead of using a giant tall setup for this. So it's not too hard to get this all going. This is also going to be useful, I believe, later on as well for making lithium. So we'll eventually want another setup to take brine into another thermal evaporation chamber to make lithium, and then lithium can be used to make some nice batteries. and many other things in Mechanism. Now, I went ahead and removed the tree farms that were out here. They weren't working anyways for some reason. It was like kind of bugged out. I really don't know what was causing the issue there. But I can now use this space for setting up those thermal evaporation chambers. This is going to be, they're going to be these weird shaped sort of structures. I should be able to put multiples on these pads. Of course, if I need to have more than a few of them, we can always set up more of them down the road. But they pretty much look like this. So it's going to be this 4x4 chamber that looks like this with a flat bottom. And then we raise this up and we keep raising it up. Of course, we're also going to need a controller, and we're also going to need 2 valves, one for pumping water in and one for pumping the brine out. And we build it up to this, and then I'm just going to raise it up one more, like so. And then these sides are where I'm going to place these advanced solar generators. And I like to place them like this, and it's going to be perfect because we're always day anyways in this pack, which is kind of perfect, especially for all of the stuff that involves Mechanism. So there it is. Here we go. We have these. They're always going to stay running at the same rate, and this is also going to keep it nice and heated up. Now we're also going to need a valve, like I said. This is for putting in the water, which we're going to have to send into it. And then on this side, we can pull out the brine. And then on the front, we just need to place the controller somewhere. Once it's done, we should see this like redstone effect. And perfect. I now have a thermal evaporation controller. You can see we have some heat. All we got to do now is just feed it some water. So here we go. Pipe to the rescue with an aqueous accumulator. Should be enough water fed to this. And this can be upgraded. The aqueous accumulator can, and it can produce water quite quickly. Not as fast as like something like a sink, which is not in this pack. But it's not as fast as a sink, but it definitely is pretty quick for keeping up with water. I think the only thing that can keep up that would be better than this would be like a pump for Mechanism, but that does cost power where this doesn't. So here we go. We have it filled up, and if we open up the machine here from the controller, we can see it is now filling with water, and it is already completely filled with brine. So we need to take this brine and we need to start processing it into salt. So for this, we will have a condensator, and then we can just send the product directly into the the chemical crystallizer, and this should produce. Now these are going to need speed upgrades. Almost guarantee it's going to need that. I think this can accept fluids from the top. Hopefully it can. I'm going to be sending it to the top. Let's go ahead. Oh. So that is going in there, but it's not accepted yet. So make sure that we are accepting. I don't think it has to go on this side. Some of these machines have been changed, but I think for it to be salt, right, it needs to be gaseous, which needs to be decondensating. Right now it's in condensating mode. So there it goes. Now it's going in. And let's go ahead and put an ender gate on here, and on this machine might as well. So that is filling up. It's not super fast by any means until we get some speed upgrades on it anyways. So there it goes. And then we want this to output to this machine. And so we need to make sure with it now being a gas that we're inputting, and it is accepting. And then on this, we need to make sure on our gases that we're outputting to the right, and auto eject is on. And there we go. So now we're producing salt. We just need speed upgrades and energy upgrades. Right? That should be everything we need. Energy and speed. Both getting upgrades. There we go. So, there's our salt being produced. It doesn't produce it very fast. So we're probably going to end up needing multiples of these. And as you can see, it does cost a lot of power to run these. Even with some power upgrades that make it cheaper to run, it is still going to cost a lot. So I'm going to take this, and then I'm going to output it to the bottom under the items section. So under items, make sure the output's to the bottom. There should be nowhere else for items to go. And I should be able to hook in to our refined storage and get this on an input, because that's how we're going to be sending items around. So now that is just one of several things that have been solved, one of the problems, and that is obtaining salt. Everything else, though, shouldn't be too difficult. It's just going to be a sequence of machines. Now, I do want all of these machines to lead into one location. And that is where a special block from Mechanism is going to come into play. Now, this is a pretty interesting machine, but it is called a quantum entangle porter. Basically, this allows power, it allows fluids, it allows gases and items to all be transferred through it and set into channels. As you can see, though, it is kind of expensive to make, but I think we should be able to easily set up autocrafts for it, and it's not going to be too difficult, right? So I have everything set up, even the teleportation core. That is pretty straightforward. We should be able to use these to transfer our fluids from one location to another. So we can have our setup for all of these fluids going and then use them on our stacks of machines that we're going to set up. Now for this next step, I had to think about it a little bit, but the sulfuric acid, we should be able to get away with one concentrator. And then we're going to need 2 chemical infusers because we need to make sulfuric acid, but we also need to make sulfur trioxide. So those both require chemical infusers. Oxygen, well, that comes from an electrolytic separator. That's quite straightforward. The sulfur dioxide, however, needs a chemical oxidizer. So we're also going to need a chemical oxidizer. Quite straightforward. So to get this set up, we're going to need a total of 5 machines, at least at the base of this, as I don't know how many chemical oxidizers we're going to need. I do remember that process being kind of slow. So setting these machines up, this is where it's going to come with a little bit of detailed thought, as I would prefer to not use pipes to put these together. I would prefer to have these machines all clumped together and be nice and compact. Before that to happen, I need to break this down into parts. So we have our chemical infuser. We know this is ultimately where our product is going to come from. And then we need to break it down into the things that are happening on each side. So one side of it is very simple. We just need water vapor, right? That's all we need. Water vapor is really easy to do. It's just going to go right here. And then we can have an aqueous accumulator that is just simply sending the water to this machine. So that's about as straightforward as it gets. So if I place water right here and then the aqueous accumulator, I can then pipe that in there, no problem. So water will just end up going straight into here and turning into vapor. Now, I believe this is set to the right setting. Let's see, water. No, it needs to be changed into the other process. So we need to make sure that is pumping. So we will take what it's producing, which is going to be vapor, which is a gas, right? And we need to make sure that's outputting to the left, which it is. Now this, we need to make sure on the gas side, it is accepting this, which it should be. I don't know if it matters which side is what. This has no power yet, so let's go ahead and get the power going. These things take sort of the longest amount of time, right? But yeah, this should be filling up with water vapor, so no need to even modify anything. How great is that? So with that side done, now we get to take a look at the much longer part, and that is getting the oxygen and also producing the sulfur trioxide. So we know that the sulfur trioxide is done in a chemical infuser, so we'll set up our chemical infuser right here, right next to this chemical infuser, which is going to be producing ultimately the product. And then I can go ahead and start to configure sides, right? So the output, I want to go to the right. And I believe this is all going to be handled in gas form. So the output is going to be to the right, and our input for the different materials, they're going to have to take place on different sides, but at least we have the output set up appropriately. Now the other chemical infuser, its inputs are already set up, so thankfully we don't have to worry about that. Now we need to get oxygen, and basically on our other setup that's down below, I realized hydrogen is on the left and oxygen is usually produced here on the right. So with that knowledge, I don't have to worry about using droppers and accidentally getting this all messed up. So on the top, under gas, which should be under oxygen, yeah, it's a gas, we're going to have this be an input. And I think for this particular setup, it's wanting it in the red slot, so that is perfect. And then this, we're going to have a tank that gets rid of the hydrogen for now. We might use it later on. So let's go ahead and we'll clear out the item slot because there's nothing item going to be going in here. But under gases, we have hydrogen, and on the right, it's going to be producing that. So I want the oxygen, which should be on the right. This cyan, we need it to send to the bottom. And then the hydrogen, I'm actually going to have it send the hydrogen to the top, which is going to go into a tank for now. And that way we can just send that off. And so we'll just have this dumping excess for now. I guess really I actually don't, never mind. I don't even need this because I can just have that idle and dumping excess. Now the reason I wanted this over here was because I want to continue the pipe from our water over here and just extend that into this. And then I can go ahead and remove that. That is going to fill with water so we get our electrolytic separator going. That way I only have to have one of these. So for the other part of this multi-line processing, we need sulfur dioxide, and this is where we're going to just have a chemical oxidizer that goes right here. And then I just need to say to send items into, or to send the fluid, which is I think going to be a gas, if I remember correctly. Oh boy, sulfur dioxide. It's just a liquid. So we're going to be under the liquids tab on this machine. Or gases? I guess it is a gas. I have no idea. Sometimes things seem so odd, right? So, okay, so this is going to be producing a gas. And the gas is going to output to the right, which is perfect, which is exactly where we want it to go. And so that's already ready to send off. So only thing I'm going to need is to continue my line over here and have an exporter, an exporter that's connected to this. And that exporter is going to be sending the sulfur that we've been producing this whole playthrough over to that. And then there's one of our other things done. The other part is just oxygen, which, I mean, we're technically producing oxygen here, but we're probably going to need another electrolytic separator. So I might actually just extend that into this line. So now that all this is running, I can now start to put this into my quantum entangle porters. So this is going to be set to oxygen. So I'm going to create a channel. So oxygen, and we can go ahead and set, and it should accept the output here of the oxygen into this. And we should be able to see that. You can see the oxygen is now going in there and being stored. This actually has quite a large buffer. And so it's just going to be kind of using it as a storage for right now. And then this down here, we need to make sure that this is the actual output for the gas is going to be the bottom of the machine. So the output down here. And this is going to be the sulfuric acid. And I'm going to be labeling it the exact same. So just like that, it is created. So now we have two separate channels. And we should be able to see sulfuric acid is now being put into this container. So oxygen in this, and then over here sulfuric acid. So we have all of our stuff ready to go. The only thing that's left is just feeding the salt into our machine. So now is the fun part. Let's go ahead and get a prototype going of just the basic setup. And I'm going to be actually putting it into this room, but we are going to be setting up a 25 times ore processor, or at least trying to do it, because there's still a couple of steps that we're going to need to do, but it's going to involve create, thermal, and all kinds of machines. Now I think I have everything ready to go for all of this. Of course, I had to prep all of the individual machines and make sure I have everything set up here. This is going to receive the sulfuric acid. This receives water. I just have a bucket here for right now. This is going to receive the salt, the chemical injector. Then we have the quantum entangle porter that's going to, I believe, give this oxygen. Now I'm kind of confused with this one because this also shows flint inside the process as well. And I don't know if we have to also feed it flint, but it does also show a chemical tank here with oxygen in it, which is kind of odd. I don't know if I can just send directly the oxygen. We'll find out when we get started to put it together. They have crushing wheels, which of course I'm going to be using chutes for this, as it just makes it easier to send the items from into it and also out of it. The crusher, and then it's going to go into a pulverizer, and then an energized smelter. And then all of that is going to lead into a... I guess what I really want to use for this is going to be compacting drawers. So I'll go ahead and make several compacting drawers, and we'll start with that. So right here is where I want the process to take place. So I will start here, and then I just need to start layering the machines from the bottom up, just like so. And this shouldn't be too crazy to do. The chute is going to go here. Now on this, I'm going to need to sort of turn, grab some building blocks, right? And what I can do is set it up so that way my crushing wheel processes the stuff right here, which means that the crushing wheel needs to be on these blocks here and make sure it's spinning in that direction. Of course, that's where the chute's going to be. And then, of course, another chute right here. So then I can get rid of all the dirt. And I have a perfect setup going for that, right? So there we go. So the crushing wheels are then going to crush. And I'm going vertical with this because it just makes it easier. If you go this on the ground, it just takes up so much space. And these are going to fit right in here perfectly. And we'll be able to just duplicate this setup. And also, I think I'm going to have 6 here because I think there's only 11 things I need to process. But I'm planning on having 3 here, 3 here, 3 here, and I guess 2 on the other side. And they're going to equally work. It's going to be pretty nice and kind of fit in here perfectly. All right, so after that, then we have the purification chamber that can go here. And then I'll go ahead and put the quantum on the back for now. And then we have the chemical injector, which can go here. And then, of course, the exporter on the back. Next, chemical crystallizer. Then we have chemical washer. And then last but not least, the chemical dissolution chamber. And there's also going to be importers on this as well that are going to be on the top. So that'll also receive this on the back because it's going to get a special fluid. And we're just about ready to go. I think on this, I can also go ahead and set up a pipe. What I might do is set up a quantum entangle porter that is specifically made for water. I think that might be a little bit cleaner for this setup as well. But there it is. That's the 25 time ore processing. We're just going to need a lot of machines. A lot more of these. Now, I almost have everything ready to go. I've done the water quantum entangle porter. I have this set up, which I just need to get covered up. Just like this, and run this covered all the way up there. Very nice. And this is pretty much ready to go modular, I guess you can say, or not modular. I think I'm using the wrong word there. But I'm able to kind of extend this whole process over just by using some pipes and stuff like that. So this will get moved, and then I will need my entangle porter. Goodness, that is really hard to do. It's really hard to break. Okay, there we go. So yes, entangle porters, and I want to make sure they're placed this way. Now this is water, and so the way I'm going to work this is I select water, but first I think I want to go in here and make sure that fluids is set up so that way it outputs to the back, and there's nothing else on here, and auto eject on, and that way it should send water to this automatically. Is so long as this is configured properly. Thankfully, once we get these all set up, we can just copy and paste all of the settings. That's going to be the nice part. So it should be as straightforward as just selecting water here, and we set. That's filled with water now. This one, on the other hand, is a gas. This is going to be the sulfuric acid. So we need to make sure to set gases to output to the back. And that should work. Sulfuric acid, set. Sulfuric acid in there. Perfect. And then this one down here, I hope this works. So gases apparently can be accepted. And this is going to be the oxygen that needs to be sent to this. So let's make sure this is set to gases, output, auto, and then make sure that we select oxygen. And there we go. So oxygen does go in here. Oh, thank goodness. Now I wonder, would it be better for us to do the like this stuff right here, the hydrogen chloride? Or would it be better for us just to use the salt? I have no idea. That's one thing I'm going to have to figure out. So this is the salt that needs to go in here. So that's going to export salt. We just need to make sure that this is going to accept salt into the bottom. Under the items, so, or this is the back, right? So the back needs to be, yeah, salt. Ooh, that makes hydrogen chloride so slow. Ooh, but I don't know if the machines can make it any faster. We're just gonna have to see. So at this point, I think I have all of them configured. So the top, basically I just have everything leading to the next one. So if I take some iron, for example, and I think I need 3 of these to get this whole process started. We put that in. That is then going to get turned into that slurry of 2,000 that I didn't realize. And then I need to figure out what to do with this and how to get this out. Okay, so it is a slurry. Okay, so I have it set to the wrong thing. So we just need to output the slurry here. This section has a slurry. I have that configured properly. That should process this into clean slurry. Clean slurry then ends up over here and then gets turned into the iron product. So lots of processing, and these aren't even upgraded. So there's the iron crystals. So then we need to take iron crystals, turn auto eject on. That then is going to utilize all of that salt in its process. Oof. So yeah, we might need to produce hydrogen chloride instead of salt for this process, because I don't know. Well, we do have the salt. I guess cables. Do I not have this hooked in? This is plugged in. I don't. Oh, I think I changed the configuration, but still, that's taking in way too much salt for this operation. I think that's an insane amount of salt this is needing to run, and with all these machines going, holy smokes, we're nowhere near producing that much. But taking a look at the rest of it, this is producing the iron shards. Then those get produced. Those are then taking it over here to the crushed iron ore. And then that should get pulverized. However, I don't have the upgrades in here just yet. And then that's going to get smelted and down here turned into this. So far we only have 2 iron ingots, but we do have to figure out the upgrade of this, which is going to be this material. So this requires sulfuric acid as well, earth charges to produce, and so on and so forth. So yeah, it also needs this essence of darkness and all of that fun stuff. So for right now, this is still producing quite a bit. It's definitely not 25 times fully yet until we get the pulverizer upgrades in there and making sure we always have this. So this will have to be probably the next process automation. So at the moment, I'm working on getting that liquefied into that, what is it called? Hydrogen chloride. So I have chlorine being produced down below, and over here, let's see, right over here, I'm pretty much using the same thing. So I'm still producing salt, but I'm also producing chlorine over here, and we have the sodium being dumped. I hooked up hydrogen to all of my things that I was just dumping excess hydrogen, and now the hydrogen is being pumped into a quantum entangleporter. So I'm just waiting for some more of those to be produced. And then we need to take this into a chemical infuser, and then we will take chlorine into this, and then we need to combine that with hydrogen, and that is going to make the hydrogen chloride, and then I'll just have this go into another entangleporter. So there we go. Now I'm producing hydrogen chloride. So these two things are being combined together. All we're going to do is speed this up. I just want to get the basics going, and then of course the speed up will happen over time. But I did the math, and it seems like out of the 3 we put in here, we have 29 iron ingots. And that means that without even putting the upgrade in here for the pulverizer, we're getting about 9.6 out of 1 raw. So we are currently sort of doing like a 9 times processing, which is pretty darn good. That's without any sort of catalyst inside of this pulverizer. And that's really what's going to change the whole setup to produce more. So now at this point, I have all the machines placed in. This did take a little bit of time to get all the auto crafting, specifically for the top 3 row here, as they're quite expensive. But we did have all the resources, so I went ahead and got it all done. Also, as you can see by down here, also had to craft a bunch of crushing wheels, and I have it set up over here. Of course, I can always expand on these, but I don't think I need more than 11. So this should work just fine. Now, this is where things get a little bit easier, because all we have to use is the mechanism configuration card, this right here, and I just copy, control, and then I just right click on all of these machines that are the same type, and it will paste the appropriate configuration. And that also includes this back here. Now I will need to set this up, and I will use pipes, like the pressurized pipes, to extend to all the other machines in the back. But the cards also work for this as well, so I'm able to copy that card and move it on. Now, I don't have everything plugged in just yet, but this is the fundamental of the 25K processing. Of course, I still have some auto crafting to do, to be able to maintain this. Of course, upgrading all of these machines, but getting the catalysts in the back is just as simple as setting up the autocraft for the requester. And then we're going to have to request those high tier to be stored in the back of the pulverizers. What we might end up doing there is just setting the requester to only put one in and only craft one. And that way we'll have that in the back there, and it'll be definitely producing 25 times at that point. But right now, I've ran out of time for today's episode. So I know I've already extended the time quite a bit today, but I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. And I hope this was definitely a process for you guys as well to watch. And I hope you learned something. And if you're going to set up the 25 time processor, I hope this was helpful for you guys as well. Guys, I appreciate it. If you would, click that subscribe button. These videos do take a very long time to make sometimes. And of course, I would appreciate a thumbs up as well. And it's now time to thank the amazing supporter of today's video. That amazing thanks is going to go to Mocha the Cat over on Discord, becoming a Discord premium member and supporting in one of the best ways possible. Guys, I do appreciate you. Thank you all to who support and all of you who watch. Thank you so much. And if you're wondering why my XP went out, well, I died in one of the crushers during the building process. Ignore that. But anyways, guys, I thank you so much. I'll see you in the next one. And as always, thanks for watching. Bye.